this session, we will demonstrate how to use group by clause and aggregate functions to perform calculations on grouped data. But before we do this, we'll be importing our table into our SQL Server Management Studio. To do that, we will first have to create a database, okay? So to see our newly added database, we will expand this database, and then you see our new database, Bootcamp Aggregation. The hierarchy is this. You create your database, then you insert tables in a database. So you can have as many tables as possible in a particular database. So now that we've added our database, what we need to do now is to import our table. To find our table, you can collapse the database Bootcamp Aggregation. Okay, click to collapse it, and then you collapse tables. Okay, so you see our table here. This is our table already. So to view this table, usually manually, you can actually use a query to actually view the table. But you can quickly just right-click on the table and say, select top 1,000 rows. So we know our current table does not have up to 1,000 rows, but at least it will show us basically everything that we have on our table, okay? So this is the query for this result. So we have our table inserted appropriately. Then we head on to the first task. The first task is for us to work on this table using the group by clause. The group by clause is used to group rows that have the same values in specified columns into summary rows. So let's go ahead now and write the query that will help us group by. And in this example, we'll be grouping by department, okay? So we have a column in our data set here called department, isn't it? So to start writing our query, we'll head on to our ribbon and you see new query here, right? You click on new query to have a new query sheet, okay? So let's begin. We start by using the select statement. I want to select the department column, okay? And we want to now count employee ID. That is from the employee ID column. Then we want to return it as employee count. Remember that employee count now is not a column in our table, but we want to return a new column called employee count. Okay, so all of this will be done from our table, which is called employee table, right? So that is our table name. Okay, then we are grouping by department. Okay, so a second look at our code. We're using the select statement to select our department. Then we want to count the employee ID as employee count. We are doing all of these things from our employee table. Then we are going to be grouping by department. If you could remember how our table looked like, we had 3 columns. We had the employee ID column, we had the department column, and the salary column. And in the department column, we had some departments repeated. So basically, we just want to have a summary of that table to group by these departments. We are grouping by department because department has repeated measures, right? So that is why we really need to group by that column. Okay, now that we are done with this query, we can go ahead and click on execute, okay, to execute this query. Now you see it now. We have our department grouped into 4 now, right? It has summarized it into 4, HR, IT, marketing, and sales. Then employee count, you see, we say, right? We said count employee ID as employee count, right? If we change this as, this is like a conditional column, right? A new column we basically want to have in this summary. So if you basically change it to say number and re-execute this code, you are going to have number. So basically, it is what you indicate that it should be. Okay, so for the sake of saving this query and having it, instead of having new queries every time, I'll show you how you can actually write new queries and execute only queries that you've written at a particular time. So that is our first example. So for the second, we want to calculate the average salary by department. So I'll hit enter twice. So to actually enter statements in SQL Server Management Studio, we basically start with 2 dash, and now we want to find the average salary by department. So hit enter to begin to write our queries. So now, again, our column of interest is the salary column, okay? So we are definitely going to start with the select, and we are selecting the department column. Then we want to calculate the average of a particular column, right? So whenever you're writing your query and you see it underlined with red, just know that because it's saying it's an invalid column and it's because you've not stated from which table it's coming from. So to calculate average, we'll say average. Average as a function in SQL is written as AVG, okay? So we want to calculate average of what column? Of the salary column, okay? Then what are we representing that column as? Let's call it average salary, okay? So we'll say as average salary, okay? Then all of this is happening from what table? From our employee table, right? Yes, from this table. Okay. Then how do we now group the summary so that we can have the average from each department? We definitely have to use the group by clause, and we are grouping by the department. Okay, so we go ahead and close our query. So you see now that we don't have anyone highlighted with red line to show you that everything is good to go. Now, basically have two queries in this document here, right? So if I go ahead and execute, it basically executes from the top. So, but I want to just execute this query. So I will do well to just highlight my intended query to be executed and then click on execute. And it goes ahead to execute the queries I have highlighted. Okay, so this is our result now. We see our results now is clear. We have our summary results grouped by department here. And then we have average salary of all of the staff in that department. So to the third query in this session, we'll be calculating the total salary by department. So let's write a new statement, which is 2 dash, we'll say total salary by department. Okay, so let's go ahead with our query now. So the query we'll be writing now is very similar to the one we wrote for average salary. It's just that the function average will be replaced by the function sum. Sum is for total. Okay, so we start with the select statement, select from our department column, and we want to calculate the sum of the salary column, okay? And we want to present it as total salary, right? And this is coming from our employee table, which is in our bootcamp aggregation database. And we are definitely grouping by department. So group by the department column, because the department column is going to serve as our summary labels. Okay, so we are written the query for total salary by department. So to execute this query, I'll go ahead, select, and then execute. So we have our total salary now for each department in our employee table. So to the fourth query, we'll be writing, and the fourth query here will be on finding the minimum and maximum salary by department. So let's find minimum and maximum salary by department. Okay, so as usual, we will be selecting a department column. So I want to let you know that the functions in SQL are not really case sensitive. So I could still write my select like this, and it gives me the same result. So select department. However, when you are referring to the column, you have to use appropriate writing, the way it is written on your table. If not, it's not going to be recognized, okay? So we are referencing or selecting the department column. Then we are calculating the mean from the salary column, okay? Mean means minimum, right? and we want to present it as minimum salary, or let's call it mean salary. Okay. Then we also want to calculate the max from the salary column as well. Okay. All of these will be coming from our employee table. Then we'll be grouping by department. Okay. The department column. Okay. Let's close. Okay. All right. So go ahead, highlight our query to execute it. And oh, something is missing here. We said we are supposed to add two columns because we are calculating two items here, the mean and the max. So we said present mean salary as mean salary. So let us present the max as max salary. Okay, this is good. And we can go ahead and execute now. Yes. So we have two columns now. You can easily calculate the mean, right? And calculate the max, but well, we wanted to know the minimum and the maximum from each department. So we went ahead and just made it a singular summary. Okay. So to the fifth query we'll be writing, we basically want to summarize everything we have been writing together. We want to just put in the queries together. Okay. So in this one, we'll be combining multiple aggregate functions. Okay. Let's combine multiple aggregate functions. Okay, so we definitely need to select from our department column, okay? And then we want to count employee ID as employee counts. Then we want to calculate average salary and present it as average salary. We want to also calculate the sum of the salary column and present it as total salary. We also want to indicate the mean from the salary column and present it as mean salary. We want to calculate the max as well, the salary column, and present it as the max salary. All of this will be coming from our employee table, and we will be definitely grouping by department. Okay, so little things count, okay, when we're writing our query. So we definitely have to pay attention. So now the indentation to let it understand that we are all selecting to match all of these. And so the separation with the comma sign and so on. For the last one, the last marks, we did not use the comma because so that it will recognize that we are picking from this table. And so you see everything is fine now, okay? So let's close our query. Highlight our query so that we can basically execute from it. So execute, and we have it here. So we have this now. So this is how we basically aggregate, okay? We have the departments, then the employee counts, in each of those departments, the average salary, the total salary, the minimum and the maximum salary. All right?